Your dog checks for you every single night. Before Max allowed himself to fall asleep, he did a round. He would walk the perimeter of the living room slowly, nose low, paws nearly silent on the hardwood, and then stop at the bedroom doorway. He would stand there for a moment, ears slightly forward, and look at James. Just look. And then, only then, he would curl up on his bed in the corner and close his eyes. James thought it was a quirk, a habit, something Max had just always done. He didn't know it was ancient. There is a field of research that most dog owners have never heard of. It sits at the intersection of evolutionary biology, sleep science, and attachment theory. It studies what happens in the minutes just before a dog loses consciousness, the transition from alert to drowsy to fully asleep. And what research has found in those minutes is not what most people expect. Dogs don't simply lie down and let sleep take them. They prepare. They check. They confirm. And what they are confirming every night in millions of homes around the world is you. Max was 3 years old when James first started paying real attention to the ritual. One night, James had a cold and went to bed early. Breaking from his usual pattern, he had barely settled under the covers when he heard the familiar sound of paws on hardwood. Max appeared in the doorway, looked at him lying in bed instead of sitting on the couch, and paused for longer than usual. Then he walked back to his own bed. James lay in the dark, thinking about that pause. It lasted maybe 5 seconds, but in those 5 seconds, something had happened. Max had processed something, compared something, made a decision based on information James didn't yet fully understand. He started watching more carefully after that. In 2019, a team of researchers at the University of Veterinary Medicine in Vienna published a study on what they called social referencing sleep behavior in domestic dogs. They monitored 94 dogs across 6 weeks, using video surveillance and biometric tracking during the 2 hours before sleep onset. What they found was consistent and striking. 91% of the dogs performed a location check in the final 30 minutes before sleep, physically moving toward or visually confirming the location of their primary attachment figure before settling. The dogs weren't checking for danger. They were checking for you. The distinction matters more than it might seem. When wolves sleep in the wild, they do check for danger. They position themselves strategically, remain partially alert. This is ancient behavior, written into the nervous system over hundreds of thousands of years of survival. But domestic dogs have had something added to that ancient code. Approximately 15,000 years of coevolution with humans have layered something new on top of the threat check, something researchers now call attachment confirmation. Before a dog allows itself to fully surrender to sleep, it needs to know that the person it is bonded to is present. Stable there, Max's nightly round was not checking the perimeter for intruders. He was checking that James was still there. The neurochemistry of this behavior is more complex than most people realize. In the hour before a dog falls asleep, cortisol begins to drop. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, begins to rise. In dogs, this oxytocin rise before sleep is specifically triggered by proximity cues from their attachment figure. Your dog's brain releases a wave of bonding chemistry in the moments before sleep, and that wave is partly triggered by knowing where you are. You are not just a comfort. You are a biological prerequisite for sleep. James ran a small experiment of his own. On nights when he stayed in the living room reading, Max would complete his round, see James clearly on the couch, and settle immediately. On nights when James had gone to the bedroom early but left the television on, Max's routine was different. He would circle longer, stop in multiple places, check the couch, check the hallway, sometimes look toward the bedroom door with his ears slightly raised. The television wasn't James. The couch shape in the dark wasn't James. Max needed James, not a substitution. The actual person. In 2004, researchers at the University of Portsmouth studied whether the secure base effect, originally described in human infants, could be observed in dogs. The idea: a securely attached infant can explore, rest, and sleep more easily. When their attachment figure is present, the caregiver's presence doesn't just make the child feel good, it regulates their nervous system. They found the same was true for dogs. Dogs near their owners showed measurably lower heart rate, lower cortisol, and lower muscle tension than dogs settling in separate rooms. The effect was not subtle. It was not marginal. It was significant enough that researchers described it as the defining variable in canine rest quality. Your presence is a physiological event for your dog. Not a preference, not a comfort. A measurable, biological shift in their body's fundamental state. The night James truly understood this was an ordinary Tuesday in November. He had been away for 4 days. Work, travel to Chicago, which he hated. He came home late to a house that smelled like the dog sitter and leftover Thai food. Max had been waiting at the door. Not anxiously, not dramatically, just sitting in the hallway, in the dark. As if he had known the exact moment the key would turn. James sat down on the floor right there in the entryway, and Max walked into him, not leaped, not bounced, just walked forward until his chest pressed against James's chest and stayed there. They sat like that for a long time. Later, when James was finally in bed and the lights were out and the house was quiet again, he heard Max do his round. The familiar slow pause on the hardwood, the slight pause at the bedroom doorway, shorter than usual, maybe 2 seconds instead of 5, and then, almost immediately, the soft exhale, the quiet weight of a sleeping dog settling in the corner of the room. He had barely checked. He hadn't needed to. James was already there. He had been there the whole time, really, in the only way that mattered to Max. Present, located, confirmed. James lay in the dark and didn't move for a long time. There is a small adjustment that changes everything once you understand this. It costs nothing. But research suggests it has measurable effects on a dog's overnight stress hormones and morning cortisol levels. Before you go to sleep, let your dog find you. Don't disappear suddenly. Don't slip into the bedroom and close the door before Max has had his round. Let him do the check. Let him confirm your location. And when he stops in the doorway and looks at you, look back. The 2015 study from Ozabu University in Japan established that mutual gaze between dogs and owners triggers an oxytocin release in both, the same mechanism that bonds human parents to infants. A few seconds of eye contact at the end of the night is not a small thing for your dog. It is the confirmation that the check returned a positive result. You are here, I can rest. James started saying goodnight to Max. He felt slightly ridiculous the first few times. A grown man, alone in his apartment, saying goodnight to his dog as if Max understood the words. But Max understood something. Not the words. The tone. The quality of attention in James's voice when he looked at him at the end of the night and said, quietly, "Good night, buddy." Max would hold eye contact for a moment. Then he would look away, turn around twice, and settle, and sleep. Sleep researchers have documented something they call guardian dreaming. In dogs, a colloquial term for the observable patterns in REM behavior that seem to replay interactions with the primary attachment figure. Dogs in deep sleep often show small movements, paws, paddling lips, twitching, occasional quiet sounds. In studies correlating these movements with waking experiences, the pattern that emerged was consistent. The interactions most likely to be replayed in REM sleep were not the exciting ones, not the runs in the park, not the play sessions. The most replayed were the quiet ones, the proximity ones, the times when the dog had simply been near the person they loved. James on the couch, James in the kitchen, James reading in the lamplight, the ordinary hours of an ordinary life playing on loop behind closed golden eyes. The bond between a dog and their owner is not built in the large moments. It is built in exactly this. The round at 11. The pause in the doorway, the held gaze. The good night that is not really words but is somehow still a conversation. Max did his round every night for the rest of his life. James was never quite the same about it after he understood what it meant. He started waning up some nights, longer than he needed to, just to be the thing that Max confirmed. Your dog will check for you tonight. They will do their quiet round, their slow survey of the house, their confirmation that the world is as it should be. And at the end of it, they will look for you. Not because they were trained to, not because something frightened them, but because somewhere deep in what they are in 15,000 years of slowly choosing each other, finding you before sleep is not optional. It is the last necessary thing. Be there for it. Look back. It takes 3 seconds, and it means everything to them. More than the walk, more than the treat, more than almost anything else you will do that day. If this video stayed with you, share it with someone whose dog does the same thing. And if you want to understand what your dog is telling you every day, in every quiet moment, subscribe to Silent Paw. Because they speak more than words. We just have to learn how to listen.